Right off the bat, I understood that I had very severe social anxiety. I knew that I had to fight against it actively to fix it. It wasn't going to go away on its own. That's the major lesson here, is that these things don't go away on their own, but when you're proactive about fixing them, they can go away and you can have a way better life, because the freedom that you get is so powerful when you do that. So what I would notice was, say that I took my shirt off, I put on my little ninja mask, I put on my shoes, and I'm about to go right into a crowd and start screaming. I'm like, oh, like it's like there's this, it's like there's concrete on your body. Like you're just, everything is communicating. Your entire evolutionary wiring is just saying, don't do this, is really what it's saying, right? And now here's what's really crazy, and here's the lesson that I would impart to you, is basically I would be surging with adrenaline to the point my knees are shaking, but the mind has this sort of survival mechanism to it. And if you push yourself over it and your mind recognizes this idiot is committed to this course of action, like this idiot is going to do this. Like we're trying to make him not do it. He's not listening. His prefrontal cortex is going to overpower the adrenaline that he has. He seems to think this is very valuable, this moron who's going to get us killed. You push over it, suddenly what will happen is you get this surge of almost like enlightenment, like a Satori experience. All that bandwidth that's being usurped by the fear gets given, it gets reclaimed. You become hella present to the moment. You go into deep presence, you become really calm, you feel euphoric, and you have access to all your faculties. This is why people will do things like skydiving, because you have to fight the fear, and then when you jump out, you're the most free. And when you can learn to live in that place a lot more frequently, think about how effective you are. Why is that important? I've mentioned this during the seminar already. If you want to compete in the marketplace in entrepreneurship, you want to be bringing genius to the table. I think that I bring genius to the table, but something that I can tell you is genetically, I'm not a genius. So how am I doing that? What's going on there? Why am I able to be a market leader? Why am I able to dominate my niche? It's not because I'm genetically a genius. If anything, genetically, I'm as average as it comes. The reason why is because I proactively reclaimed a lot of my consciousness, that bandwidth, the bandwidth of my consciousness, out of what's called the me show, as I keep saying. Making it about you, your embarrassment, what people think of you, micromanaging perceptions, seeing yourself through the eyes of others continually. And instead of seeing yourself through the eyes of others, you've got to feel into the crowd. Again, most of us, if I bring you up to the front of this room, 90 or even 99% of your consciousness, whatever it is, for most of us is going to be focused on how you look. Only 2 to 3% of my consciousness is focused on how I look. The other 90%, I'm like Lewis, I'm looking at you. 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 I'm seeing how you're reacting. I'm monitoring your flow of it. I'm going to do little things like switch my cadence, change it up, louder, quieter. Maybe I'll whisper a bit to pull you closer to me. I'll give a joke to you, snap you awake. I'll look at if you're zoning out, maybe the content is not resonating. I'll switch it up. Well, if I'm doing that as a speaker, that's going to allow me to operate at a level that 99% of people cannot operate at. So why is it important to do exercises like posting a double chin on social media? Because you've got to get over that. You've got to force yourself to stop anchoring your sense of self to the way that you're being perceived. I think it's important to manage perceptions to the extent that you're giving a real expression of what you think is cool. You should dress in things that you like, that you think are cool. Now, if you go so unrelatable that you just look weird, I think that's too far, okay? Like you're just so whacked out, you're center shotting yourself as a weirdo. In my opinion, you know what it is when someone does that? They're making an identity of being a loser. It's like a polar responder that's being weird because they're addicted to negative responses. So like, you know, I'll wear what I think is cool, but I'm still wearing like jeans. My shoes are still Nike. You know, right? So it's not like I'm that much of a nonconformist. I'm still aware of how I'm being perceived. There's a light on me right now for the camera because I don't want the shot to look dark. Don't get me wrong. But within the mores of social norms to an extent, I enjoy riding the edge and doing so with my own flair and style and showing that I'm not so caught up in perceptions and that I can be the real me and express myself. Think of it like, again, relatability versus authenticity, okay? Remember we did congruence versus expression? Remember that, guys? Congruence, like Louis did the congruence. Then we did range of expression. Think about it like this. Relatability is, or it's authenticity, relatability, okay? It's like a seesaw. So basically what happens is that you want to be authentic and you want to be you, but you don't want to go so far off track that it's like that top thing just falls off, right? Like, you know what I think is cool? Show up here in garbage bags covered in puke because it represents my sickness with modern social consumer culture. right? And I'm just like, feel my puke and my rage. That's not me being authentic. That's me just trying to be freaking weird, okay? We're still social creatures. We still want to connect. Part of the way you represent yourself is here's the basic thing. If you want to learn something, a lesson about style, here's the basic lesson about style. What style is meant to represent, it shows really who you are based on the way that you carry yourself. It's in your energetic signature, and it's how you carry yourself. So most people, what they do, as an example, in LA and New York, you got, and San Fran, South Beach, place like that, there's a sort of a different style than in the more smaller cities, right? In smaller cities, people are striving to conform, and the reason that they want to conform is because what that style means when you're trying to conform is, here's what you're communicating. You're sub-communicating. I'm smart enough to understand what normal looks like, and I'm smart enough to meet that norm. Got it? So, somebody who wears his Old Navy jeans and an American Eagle shirt, or something very generic, that's showing in a smaller town, because in a smaller town, some people are so dumb they can't even do that. So that's the bar. It's like, I'm not one of those super dumb ones. I'm one of the ones that gets what normal looks like. That's why in a smaller town they'll be like, get yourself a nice pair of blue jeans, boy. There's rips in those. What does ripped jeans imply in a smaller city? What does it imply in a smaller city? What might, in theory, not always, but in some cases, what might ripped jeans imply? It looks as, you know what it looks like? Yeah, maybe you're too broke to afford it. It looks like you're literally too dumb to know there's a hole in your jeans. So you want nice, crisp jeans because you don't want to look so dumb. It's like, oh, I'm too dumb. There's a hole. Almost like as if you had a hole in your crotch. That's what like a regular rip would be. In a bigger city, ripped jeans might represent that you're not staying at the center. Maybe they're ripped in a certain way that shows a unique energy signature. I think ripped jeans is almost a little too easy, but you know my point. That's why in cities like LA or New York, a lot of the fashion is like an irony upon an irony upon an irony upon an irony, right? It's like to get in the club in LA, it's like you can't just be dressed like in one. It's like you have to be dressed as like a sarcastic reference to 19 other styles, as like a fuck you to 16 other conventions that comes together in like some douchebag outfit so that you're welcome through the door. So, right? Like in LA as an example, if you go to a really high-end club and you're dressed in a suit, I think a suit could be really cool. Don't get me wrong. I think they could be amazing. I love a nice suit. Like, Conor McGregor, guys have really cool suits. But in some ways, if you go to certain LA clubs, you're wearing a suit, that kind of implies you're playing it safe a little bit, right? The really cool guys in the LA club probably are wearing like some Nikes or some Adidas or something like that. They're actually dressed comfortably, but maybe like their t-shirts, like some Balmain t-shirt or something like that only some obnoxious rich douchebag can afford. So that's kind of like, the style's kind of mixed up like that. So you want to get past the point where you're just trying to conform all the time, and you want to be able to express yourself. You still want to be within a framework that you're not just retarded, but you want to get to the point where you're showing something unique about yourself. Now, by the way, style is also very unique, because what they've said, who's ever read the book Levels of Energy by Frederick Dodson? Okay, so what he says is that at a low level, someone's wearing rags. Then as they're moving up, maybe they're wearing more normal stuff. Then as they move up, they actually are driven to wear really expensive stuff. So I noticed myself doing that. Like as I became more successful, I had to have like every Dolce & Gabbana jacket, every Tom Ford jacket, like everything. I have them all. And I literally every season I would just go ransack every like nice thing I could get. You know who else I noticed did that? Conor McGregor did that. Floyd Mayweather, he did that. They're always flossing. I saw myself doing that. I just wanted to floss as I kind of came through. Why is that? Really what flossing is to a certain extent, in some ways it's powerful, and in some ways it's kind of pathetic, if I'm being honest about my journey in flossing. And here's basically why I'd say that. On one level it's powerful because when you come from the bottom, which I definitely came from a really fucked up environment, and you walk into a store where a jacket is $7,000, and you try that on, and you have those people there that have their snooty little attitude, even though they're all broke, and they pretend like they're flossing, and then they're like, oh, you look good in this and that, and you're in this, like, say you go to Rodeo Drive, right? You feel like you're in an environment of peace where people have made it, and so on and so forth. It's actually a powerful experience. So you start gravitating to places like that because you've been through the nightmare of poverty and people fighting each other and just shit. And when you come to LA, say that you can live up in a beautiful place and you go to Rodeo and that kind of stuff, it gives you this feeling like the nightmare is over. Why do you think guys like Conor McGregor or Floyd Mayweather want to floss? Because when they're on their yacht, when they're in their flossy clothes, it's like the nightmare is over. But then what I started to notice in myself was I stopped gravitating towards wearing beautiful Italian leather boots, and I just want to wear like Ultra Boost by Adidas. I literally just want to wear like Custom Ultra Boost by Adidas, or my other favorite one, this is like really way too much information, but why not, is like, you know, right now I'm wearing like Nike Element 55s or Nike Element 87s. These are the most comfortable Nikes you can physically get your hands on. They're way too comfortable. Or I'll wear Adidas Ultra Boost. All you guys are like, what the fuck's this guy onto now? But you see my point. So, and then all of a sudden, like instead of wearing like super sick ass jeans, I now wear jog jeans. These are literally stretchy pants like a woman would wear. I'm literally wearing a woman's stretchy pants right now. They're pretend jeans, okay? And then I started buying things like designer sweatpants. I started gravitating to styles that were more about comfort. I still want to floss a little bit, but I want to be more comfortable. So I stopped caring about that so much. Now, if you look at my evolution, where is it going in the end? Probably back to rags. Now, here's why I say that. In the Frederick Dawson book, which I love to death, Levels of Energy, what he explains is, at the bottom level, we wear rags. Then as we move up, we dress conformist. Then as we move up, non-conformist. As we move up, we start to floss. Then as we move up a bit more, floss, but with that added element of comfort. Right now, if I wear any of my really expensive, like super nice leather boots or really nice leathers, I kind of feel embarrassed. Because I'm like, why am I willing to walk around with this much lack of comfort? I don't feel comfortable. This is self-qualifying. Why do I feel the need to have my feet covered in blisters? I mean, some of my Tom Ford shoes literally put like a half ping pong ball size blister on my toe. I mean, I look flossy, but I'm not really flossing. I've got a giant blister. That's not cool, bro. So why do I feel the need for that? So now I want to be comfortable. In the end, if you guys look at, say, Dr. Dre, do you guys know Dr. Dre? Yeah. Okay, that guy is like, he's pretty much somewhere in the range of billionaire by now. I don't know if after taxes in California, he's probably got like, you know, $1,200 left after he got hit with the tax bill. But Dr. Dre, if you look at him, he just wears like, you know, a nice, like just some nice jeans, some white Nikes. It's just very clean. He just looks clean. He's actually dressed down. All the really, really, really rich guys I know, my friend Tony Hsieh runs, you know guys know Zappos.com? Yeah. Okay, Tony, if you ever meet him, he loves RSD. A lot of my other friends are big time. We taught a lot of the big time tech gurus 20 years ago because they lack social skills. So a lot of these super big tech gurus, if you ever meet them, be like, do you know RSD? And like a lot of them, they've taken our courses. So they come to our events and stuff. Guys like Tony Hsieh, they're not gonna floss because he's got $1 billion. Let your employees wear the Tom Ford suit. You're just gonna wear whatever the fuck you want. So it's sort of a journey as you're going through and coming into your own. And the way that you communicate is gonna show kind of where on that journey you are. And at each level, it makes sense. Like I'll see friends of mine as they're moving up in their entrepreneurial journey being like, I just love getting suits. Like I've just been buying suits. It's awesome. I love the way I feel in a suit. And it's powerful. Like Dan Pena, for example. Could you explain, like Dan Pena is an amazing entrepreneur teacher. Explain his view of a suit and his paradigm on that.
Yeah, the suit thing is, I mean, it's just perception is reality is what he says, right? So you walk into a bank and you're not wearing a suit, you have nothing to, you don't really have much to offer. The suit at least puts on the screen, right? If you guys ever read the book Blink by Malcolm Gladwell, it's called Thin Slicing, right? So as soon as they see that suit, they think of all the other times they've seen a person with a suit. Mm-hmm. It adds a degree of professionalism.
That, but also, did he ever mention anything about how you feel wearing a suit?
Absolutely. So like, I mean, he recommends go get the Tom Ford suit, go get the expensive suit. On top of that, he calls it smelling the leather. Go sit in the Lamborghini or Rolls Royce, go to the dealerships, just to be comfortable with these kind of items. So that level of comfort, I mean, when you're comfortable with those kind of items, it's not going to be scary to you to be in a higher level.
Change your identity.
Correct.
Yeah. And I did that. See, this house to me is like the perfect house. It's big enough that I can do parties, I can do what I want. My last house was like 7 times the size of this with a giant estate on the outside. So everybody that came over could just see this half of a golf course overlooking the city. And I could be like, hey, look at me. And that made a lot of sense to me at that point because it said to my brain, Owen, the nightmare's over. You're in abundance now. I'd wake up, I had a view of the valley and downtown. It was like this like bluff cliff. And I would just sit there and it's like the nightmare's over. For a lot of you guys here, you're gonna wanna go through that. You're gonna wanna go through flossing or having a super crazy house because you wanna say to your mind, the nightmare of poverty is over. You're gonna wanna go through that. But later, see, to me, when I see it, and Dan is making a point, and that's what I love about it. But most billionaire, and he's like uber rich, like beyond rich, beyond your wildest dreams. He lives in a castle. But for me, all the other billionaires that I know, I love the point he's making because he's a teacher. And he's teaching guys that have to have their come up. I love that. Most billionaires that I know are dressed in they're dressed in like crappy sweatpants, Nikes, and a t-shirt. Also, another thing about most billionaires I know is they don't self-qualify almost ever. They look numb. They have a look to them. They kind of walk in. It's very funny to consider this. They'll walk in and they're kind of just like, Like this. One of my good friends, you guys know MySpace Tom? Okay, he's one of my buddies. MySpace Tom is like that. Like literally, he just like, anytime we hang out, he's just like he views my life as like this curious oddity. He's like, oh, he's hustling. I remember that. Like he has this look. He'll see me hustling. He's kind of like a dog, like looking curious at like, I remember that. Working. His version of like, he told me his style, he's like, you know what I like as a style? Like he's so dressed down. He's dressed down beyond dressed down. He's like, I like wearing a hat. I feel like it shapes my head well. So I always wear a hat. Right? Because what's happened is when you get that rich, Tony Hsieh is like that too. Do you guys know who Tony Hsieh is? Runs Zappos.com. I think he sold that for like close to $1 billion to Amazon. Tony, and he like runs downtown Vegas now. Tony's like that too. It's like this guy, he just, like he's not high, but he looks like he's just smoked 50 blunts, even sober. You can't get interactive in anything. Because and that's important to consider because a lot of our reactions that we have are coming from scarcity. They're coming from missing something and from fear. When you have that much financial backing and that many people that want things from you, you don't have those fear-based reactions. So one thing that I found powerful from hanging out with the ultra rich, I really never learned a lot from them because you'd think you could learn a lot from a billionaire. I actually think I could teach you more about entrepreneurship than a billionaire could because my billionaire friends, what do they teach me? They're like, you know what? Don't work on the business. Just invest. Just like, rather than, working around the clock to make your next million, just take like 10 million, invest it in something, and then you'll get a 20% return. And I'm like, cool, thanks, man. Great. Do an IPO. I'm just like, oh, thanks, Tony. So to be fair, Tony teaches a lot of really good stuff on culture in a business. It's awesome. So you guys might want to check that out. And he's so friendly. Even if you go to Vegas, he'll host you at Zappos and show you all about the culture they build. And they base it off a book called Holacracy. And they create all these different units. And it's almost like a democracy, like within little units. So he doesn't have to manage everything because he wants to chill. It's awesome. Okay, it's called Holacracy. You can look it up. Anyway, point being, what I learned from him, though, is not about, to invest, because I don't have like $50 million just sitting there to throw down an investment. But what I did learn was his chillness. The fact that he doesn't react to things. He doesn't have that scarcity. So what you can learn when you're around that is how to sort of take on that abundance now. Again, a guy like Tony Hsieh, this guy doesn't have an approval-seeking bone in his body. He just doesn't. So we're teaching you little exercises to get you past that point where you just don't care. That's what we want to get into, is that I don't give a fuckness. So that way you can act from proactivity, not in reaction. Most of our behavior is based on reactivity. Do you understand that? So we want to get into what's true to us and act from proactivity. Okay? Does that answer you?
Thank you.
Okay, that was a lot. 2 more quick ones, then we got to go on the curriculum because everybody will be back up by then. Also, bro, could you check and see how many people are still downstairs? Okay, because as soon as everybody's up, I'm going back on the curriculum.
How do you strike the balance between approval seeking?
Got to be loud to the group. If they can't hear you, I'm not answering.
How do you strike the balance between approval seeking and selling features and benefits and
So like I was saying yesterday,
credibility?
what I do, I believe that selling is the ultimate empathy. They don't know what I have to offer, so I've got to share that with them. If I believe in my products, I should have the empathy to share with them what is in it. I will never sell something that I don't believe in. Now I'm selling from sympathy. I'm looking at the people that didn't buy something. I'm like, damn, these poor fuckers. I'm like, I probably fucked up that I didn't explain it properly. So I build the product until I'm comfortable with it to push it. Okay?
What about selling yourself? Because isn't game about selling yourself?
No.
Okay.
Sales is about conveying value. Meeting people is about assuming value. When you assume, here's the paradox people don't get. When you stop trying to self-qualify, the belief is the following. Say this with me. The self is always coming through. Say that. The self is always coming through. Look, there's nobody. Let me show you something, okay? If I bring you up here, just stand up here. Okay? Say hi to the group.
Hi.
We already know everything about him. You can't trick me, bro. I can tell by how much you smile, this deadpan face. I can see that you're relatively comfortable with yourself. I see that you have a slightly defensive posture to you. I can see that you're hiding a little bit behind neutrality. I can see that you're also fairly intelligent by the way you enunciate your words. You probably have some wins. You have some areas that you're working on. Probably some bad shit happened, but you also have things going for you that you build. I already know who you are, brother. You can't trick me. What are you going to trick me with, bro? Right? You guys already know who I am. I'm some maniacal fucking guru. I'm really smart in certain areas. Some of the shit I do is hella impressive and world class. Other of it's probably coming from being rejected when I'm a little boy. My daddy was mean to me. Can't you see it? Is there really anything to hide here? Come on. I can like pretend I'm not, but you all know it. So at that point, rather than hiding that, I'm better just to own it, be who I am, and share what I have to share. I can't sell myself to anybody, bro. Okay, have a seat, give me a hand. Cool. Right? Like, if I bring you up here, you come up here. Like, if you come up here, say hi to the group.
Hey there.
Okay, I already know that this is a guy who at one point was probably super cool, later got a woman. The woman incentivized him not to have any swag, because when he did have swag, she'd get mad about it. So he sold himself out inch by inch by inch as being poison dripped until the fact that he had no swag left and his entire day was filled up having to produce for her. Later, because he's producing for her, there's other people with swag. She got bitter about it. Now she's out getting railed by one of those guys. And he's left here as an empty shell who basically spent all this time trying to build up his logical thing. Hi everyone, I'm Logical. Is there a woman in here who'd like to be provided her? Oh no, because it's millennials and they just want swaggy guys that fuck them over. And then basically, so you did that. You're also hyper fucking smart. There's shit that you could do to make hella money. You've made money in the past. Now you probably have some struggles because you're going through shit with that situation. You're a happy person overall who has gratitude for your life. You're not one of these little punks, but you're also carrying a lot of pain. Is there anything else? Did I miss anything else?
More or less correct.
Okay, all right. Give him a hand, okay? Okay, I already know. So, you know, right? Let me bring you up. I'll tell you things about yourself. I'll tell you, yeah, like, you know, like, what do I know about him? Okay, this is a guy who's very, now I know him a little bit, but nonetheless I know it just from looking at him. I know he's very successful. He's one of these guys who's always gonna have gratitude no matter what happens, because successful people know what gratitude is, and they know that only losers don't have gratitude. He already knows that. He also, though, because he's intelligent, feels the pain of the world. When you're smart, you can feel the pain of the world. Look at his slight. So he's happy and he's in gratitude, but he knows the world's a fucking fucked up shithole at the same time, even though it's also beautiful. So he's able to see the beauty in the world. He also knows the fucked up shithole. He hasn't gone into full non-resistance around that yet because he knows it's fucked up. So it saddens him a bit. Or there's some other thing that gives you a slightly sad eyes. He's smart enough to take massive action. He is aggressive and takes action, but he's not as hyper aggressive as I am because I have more of a chip on my shoulder. He's more at peace with his life than me. I'm more aggressive because I'm still a little bit in resistance in my area because I've still got something to prove. Did I miss anything?
Yeah, that was good, especially the peace versus the aggressive bit was right on.
That's right. So you probably look at me and you're like, you have a paradoxical relationship to someone like me. You look at me and wish you had more of what I have, but you also think I look crazy. Am I right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, that's all it is. Yeah, yeah. You see that? So, and I can do this all day. So it's like there's nothing. You can't hide anything. Yeah. Go ahead.
How do we wrap it up, man? How do I get more crazy? Like that's where I guess.
I mean, that's what I've been teaching you all weekend. Reclaim bandwidth. Figure out what you want. Figure out where your strengths are. Double down on your time. It is what it is. And like, I have so many areas of my personality to round out. I'm not going to look the same in 10 years as I look now. And I look way different now than I did 10 years ago. Anybody here ever see my videos from 10 years ago? Yeah. Do I look a bit different? Yeah. It's weird, right? That's called transformation work. So what you have there is, everybody kind of has their pros and cons. I can be ashamed of how I am and try to round it out, or I can own it completely. And see, here's the funny thing, okay? By me owning who I am completely, I will create this weird effect where you guys will look at me and think that I have it all figured out and you need to be more like me. When in reality, I probably need to be a lot more like a lot of you guys. But that doesn't matter in this environment because I'm gonna carry it like this while secretly looking at you guys and seeing what I can learn from you. I'm learning from you all the time. When you're great at it, when you truly own who you are, other people will want to dress like you, act like you, carry themselves like you. They'll think that you must be doing it right because you own it. So say with me again, the self is always coming through. The self is always coming through. It's always like that. So self-qualification is basically, remember, is self-qualifying your resistance, like selling yourself? Is it control muscle or release muscle?
Would be control.
It's control muscle. What do we find with our control muscle? It does some things well, but usually not. You're not tapping into your higher power when you're in control muscle. When you're in your release muscle, that's where your strength is. There's a ceiling to the control muscle. The way to think about that is very simple. It's like you're in a boat. Control muscle is the oars. You're frantically paddling. The release muscle is the sail plus the rudder. When you're in release, you still have to move, you still have to put the sail up, which means you call upon your higher power in your release. The reason why you call upon your higher power in release is because in release, in spiritual growth, we call that submission to God. So when we submit to God and let God's energy move through us, we're now in release. So there's where our higher power is. But we have to work with God. This is just subjective opinion. I can't prove this. I didn't ask him. And basically, and what you're doing, okay, I'm just giving an opinion here. And basically, you're moving the rudder so that you can move around. You'll never be able to oar as powerfully. But you know what? God put those oars there for a reason, because things like control muscles are still super valuable. Maybe you're doing some accounting. Maybe you're having to master editing. I got to be honest, I'm a great editor. I didn't master that from my release muscle. I sat there and it kind of sucked. And I learned how to edit. When I learned how to create sales copy, I'd love to say I was just flowing and no, I didn't, dude. It sucked. It sucked. So, and maybe now I could do it from a better place, but maybe I couldn't. And I'm not attached to being in release. The control muscles are there for a reason. Your thoughts are there for a reason. But the question is, are you mind dominated? And when you're mind dominated, that energy becomes densified and it puts you down this weird rabbit hole where the energy gets denser and denser and you get more disconnected from reality because you're in the me show. And when you're in the me show, then what happens is you can't perceive what's happening and you make bad decisions. As you make those bad decisions, the me show wants to stay there and will actually sabotage you into weird little ways of acting that you get weird little responses so that you stay in the me show. It's running you. It's bad. Don't do it. Be aware of it. It makes great consumers, and that's why our consumer culture will continually infect us. Understand that you're infected. You have a psychological disease called consumer culture. You're being hammered in this all the time. And if you doubt it, do you really believe that a caveman was running around like this? You think they would have survived running around like this? You think they're running around in nature with beautiful sunsets, seeing the stars, beautiful animals, beautiful environment, and they're just like, how do I look? I need a fucking new watch. Like, you think they're really doing that? No, they're connected to their environment. They're connected in the dirt. They're connected to nature. You remember I talked about sickness and how you have to have body awareness? Just me learning some of this stuff, my body awareness got so much higher, I could stop sickness because I could get ahead of it and heal myself. We have a ton of potentials that nobody wants to talk about. And literally, these are things that we easily have. I'm to the point when I'm getting my chiropractic adjustment, I can tell my chiropractor where the adjustment has to be. No, you missed it. Get it. How do you know that? I know. Get it. How could you possibly know it? Do it again. Oh, you're right. We did need to do it there. I can sense it. I have an awareness of my body. I'm not perfect with it. Frankly, I'm probably a joke with it compared to a caveman. I'm probably a bad joke. They would be so much more connected. You guys already, there's nothing that I'm saying that's really as outlandish as it would sound on the surface. On the surface, I look like some crazed guru making a bunch of nonsense claims. And that's cool. But if you think a little bit deeper, just ask yourself the question. Don't take my word for it. Do you really believe that we survived in nature like this? Really? You think we didn't have something more? So once you look at like your teeth, wait a minute, there's canine teeth there. Does that mean that I bit things? What are the canine teeth for? What are these instincts for? And what potentials have you not cultivated yet? So you should be asking it. And by the way, whatever conclusions I came to, that's just one fucking random guy. Just one guy's opinion. Instead, come to your own conclusions. I'm not even saying believe my conclusions or let me think for you, because what would that be training you to do? Group think, derping. I don't want you to do that. I want you to think for yourself. So I'd ask you, don't take my word on anything, because I'm probably wrong about a lot of it. But what you should, I just figured out something that works for me personally. What you should do is begin to think about this for yourself and ask yourself these questions. Or as an alternative, what you can do is you can sit there just in your derpy consumer culture thinking about the next Instagram like or thinking about the next cool watch or whatever it is, and then be stuck at that paradigm. But it's very, very limiting. That's just my personal opinion. I don't know. I could be right. I could be wrong. But I definitely know there's more than meets the eye with a lot of this stuff. That I do know for sure. So I'd encourage you to explore that yourself. I don't have all the answers to it. I hope maybe someday we will. Part of me saying this stuff is that I know that I don't know everything, and I'm hoping maybe some of you guys can figure it out and give me some insight. Now let's get back on our content here. So what we did with Julian was we talked about trauma energy. And I'm going to break down a lot of really, really weird stuff that I see happening to all of you. I'm also having it myself. And a lot of this came to light for me in different experiences in my own life that I could talk about for hours. But I want to focus more on doing exercises. So what I'd like to do is the next thing I want you to do is another audit, okay? I want to do another audit with you. And here's what I want you to audit. So think of it this way. You have what you call high vibration energy and low vibration energy. High vibration energy tends to attract more what? Take a guess. And low vibration energy tends to attract more what? Take a guess. Okay, when you stub your toe, you get mad, your consciousness gets monopolized by how mad you are, then you goof something else up, you drop something, and you create chains of problems. It creates webs of problems. I want to start auditing where you're creating chains of events in your mind, and this is very, very powerful. I have watched many of my best friends do this. So basically what you have is in life, there's these things that you're doing that you're attached to. And many of them are doing, okay, so they're doing one of three things. A, they're moving you up spiritually. They're allowing you to get more connected to your higher power, more centered, more awake. And you're ascending. From there, what you have is you're moving into your higher purpose. Anything is moving you up. Then you have things that are moving you down. But a lot of what you have is things that are keeping you tires spinning in the mud. We were talking about drinking as an example. Drinking moves you down, but let's go even deeper. It's also spinning your tires in the mud. Here's why I stopped drinking. I used to drink in high school. It was fun. I go with my friends, we go in the forest, we get super wasted in front of a campfire. It was fun. I realized at a certain point, I can do this again and again and again, but I can't remember this as being a new experience. That was a really big epiphany I had. If every time I got drunk, there was like a unique experience. I mean, to be fair, they're all a little bit unique, but most of it was like this blur. It was like this kind of haze. I'm like, oh, I got messed up. Oh, that was funny. And then I'm hungover. So that's why I stopped doing it. I realized that if I kept getting drunk on the weekends, I wouldn't have a new variety of experiences. So instead of drinking, I decided I'll go to Hawaii and I'll find some campground on the side of some green giant cliff. And I'll prepare with my friends and we'll hike into it and we'll stay out there with no cell phones for a week, staring at crazy shit and just like living life. That was what I decided to do. So alcohol for me, it wasn't that it drove me down super bad. It was just that it became an easy way to fill up my weekend. So I'd ask you, how many things, it's not because that's the problem with things like even like weed or alcohol, right? Is you'll grow up and you'll hear from society it's gonna kill you. That's not true. You guys remember that? Some of you guys were around in the 80s, like, they tell you marijuana is gonna fry your brain. You're gonna be brain dead. Then you get to the 7th grade. All the cool kids are smoking weed. No one's having any health problems from it at all, and it's completely fine. And you're like, I was lied to. That's the first time you realize you're lied to. Here's what they should tell you about weed. Weed's not gonna do anything to you. You could smoke it every day the rest of your life and it'd be fine. The problem is it's just gonna make you very happy without doing anything. And then when you can be happy without doing anything, you're gonna be less inclined to push yourself to have new adventures. That would be real. That was why I stopped drinking. It wasn't because like it's killing me and my brain's frying like the egg in the this is your brain on drugs commercial. I don't think that's true at all. So anytime that I can see that something is not growth based, I might do it a little bit here or there. Really what weed is for, if you want to know my opinion, is for two things. I'm pro weed. I believe it's for two things. One is for a celebration. Okay? Say that you're like two Native American tribes, you're at war and you want a peace pipe, you want to get high together. I think that's great. Also, it's for end of life care or sickness. What would you rather take? Opioid or marijuana? Marijuana all the way. You're telling me that some opioid is legal, it's like a heroin derivative, and you'd make weed illegal? Are you kidding? Here's what concerns me though, is when that weed is being used day in and day out. And by the way, there's still some people that smoke weed every day and they have pretty rich lives. And if that's the case, I'm not gonna judge because everybody's different. That's fine. Some of my really successful friends smoke weed like crazy. I'm not gonna complain. Look at Snoop, right? Snoop's had a way cooler life than me. Sky's high right now. What, am I gonna say I'm on this level of Snoop? I'm not on the level of Snoop. So clearly some people can do it. But a lot of people, what I see more commonly than a badass like Snoop, and you gotta just be honest how it's affecting you. What I more common see is that the person is getting, like, the problem with something like weed is that you can get that high that you would have had to go do something super cool to do, but you can get it from your basement. So it's taking away certain emotional inclinations to do it. Also, again, as far as creativity, some people say you need weed to be creative. Again, I would challenge one person to get as creative on drugs, or even weed, which is not really a drug, as when you do the kind of things that we're doing here, when you're reclaiming the thought out of the me show. We have to look at things where we're spinning our wheels, right? I've even had it where I'm hooking up with some girl where it's like, it's not going anywhere. There's no point, but I'll just keep going back and having sex with her And I'm like, why am I doing this? This is going nowhere. This is literally just me like filling my day up because I just can't handle being by myself right now. So I'm going to hook up with some girl. This is not going anywhere. It's not leading me down any path. When you're younger and you've never had sex with like some attractive person or whatever, that's actually leading you somewhere because it's a new experience. At a certain point, you're not getting anything out of that anymore. You're not proving yourself anymore. So it's really just like eating some fatty food. It's like eating Cheetos. It's like Cheetos for the brain. It's not like, is Cheetos that bad? No. It's just Cheetos, right? So at a certain point, you only have so much ROI. There's only so much ROI that you're getting from that, and you've got to become aware of it, okay? So what I want you to do is I want you to audit activities that are moving you up, getting you more centered, more connected to your higher purpose. The bar here is this. If you were to get killed right now, would that have been one of the few things that was super valuable to you? You're very happy that you did. Is it something that's kind of neutral, like Cheetos for the brain, where you're just sort of doing it to fill your day? Or is it even something that is putting you into a low vibration state and actually depleting you? And I want you guys to really audit the main activities in your life right now and be able to hammer down on that. And then after that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to have you come back and we're going to look at the chains, the karmic threads, and how these different karmic threads are basically feeding a lot of negative stuff, or feeding positive stuff, or feeding neutral stuff, okay? First, though, just take like 5 minutes. Let's keep this a quick one, and then we'll keep the momentum going. Do it quick. Talk in your groups about which major activities in your life, be honest, are moving you up, that you'll deeply care about, things that are deeply meaningful to you, things that are neutral just to fill your day, which a little bit of that is fine, but it just can't be too much, and then things that are actually draining you. Let's do that audit right now. We'll be back in 5 minutes. Start up.